everyone. Let me ask you a question. When is the last time you've been underwater? No, student loans don't count. Do you have any plans this year to be underwater more than 100 meters? No? Maybe you're more like I am, where I sit at an office desk all day long, but I haven't yet given up the hope that someday I might live a life of adventure, and you want a diver watch to be prepared. Well, then this video is for you. This is Eric from Eric's Everyday Watches. I review watches that the everyday working person can afford and enjoy. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. Even if you don't like the video, go ahead and subscribe anyhow. It's okay. You know, my channel focuses on everyday watches that everyone can afford. So today I wanted to look at the Seiko SRPD, the diver watch. This one I'm going to talk about is the 93 model, which is the blue version. They have like 17 different versions of this watch, including a bunch of limited edition. But the one I'm going to focus on is the 93. Now this watch came out in 2019, so it's about 2 or 3 years old. And it's widely accessible both online and at your local stores. Now, why is that important? Think of it this way. Think of as if you're going to go buy a car, right? And you go to a car dealership and they have 2 vehicles on the lot which you're interested in, the same model, same make and everything. Now, since they only have 2, you know those are going to go for MSRP or maybe slightly over. Or these days with COVID, it's probably going to go more for like $10,000 over or something crazy, right? But now consider if you went to a dealership and they had 15 of the vehicles that you're interested in, and they knew that the dealership down the street also had 15 of those vehicles, right? You're going to get a deal on that truck or car, whatever it is you're buying. Same thing with watches, right? This watch came out 2 years ago. You know, it has a suggested retail price of around $300 to $350, depending on which model you get. But you can easily pick this up for $200 or slightly less if you wait for a deal. So it's going to be right around the time of like a holiday or something. I actually got mine for, I think it's $180 on Amazon. And I bought it from Amazon so I could use some credit card points and bring it down a little bit more. But I also know that Kohl's at the same time had this watch for like $160. And at $160, $180, this is absolutely a no-brainer. This is a fantastic watch and you should get it. I think this watch hits way above its weight level. It's very big on style. You know, what I love about this watch is you're essentially getting a custom diver look without the price or the hassle of actually doing the work itself. Now, I have never customized any of my watches myself. And part of my concern is that, quite frankly, I would mess it up, right? I'm either going to damage something when I put it in, or I'm going to order the wrong part that doesn't fit, and it's going to increase my price that I actually have into the watch. And I'm going to get to that point where I'm like, why did I start this? I didn't want to have this much money into the watch. But with this watch, the SRPD93, I feel like I already get that from a stock piece, right? And I know what my end price is going to be because it's whatever I paid for it up front. I think this is an absolutely beautiful watch, and what I love about it is just the use of color. You see how the bezel is a dark blue color and the chapter ring is actually an off-white. The hands and the markers are like this complementary cream color, and the dial almost looks black until the light hits it just right, and then it kind of is a dark blue that seems to almost shimmer. I mean, you see the way that the second hand has the tip that's red, and the length of that red is like the same diameter or same length as the markers at the 6, 9, and 12. And then if you look at the 3 o'clock and you see the day and date, how it's separated by that thin line, again, the red tip on the second hand meets that line perfectly. You know, and I just think it's the attention to detail, the combination of all these colors that are similar but different that make this watch special. The other thing about this watch is you're getting Seiko's upgraded 4R36 movement, and that's actually a big deal. We'll talk about that more in a second. But you know, this is a watch from Seiko. They've been making watches for a long time. They do all their own movements in-house, and I just feel like you're getting a lot for the money. It's like if you go to a TJ Maxx or Marshalls to buy your designer clothes, right? You're getting the exact same product, you're just paying a lot less. You're not paying those prices as if it was like the first day hype when the stuff first came out. Swatch just recently came out with this collaboration they did with Omega, right? And like people lined up for blocks. They waited for hours before the stores opened just to buy this watch. Of course, they paid full retail price. But then this watch is also showing up on eBay for like 10 times over the suggested retail price of this thing. And some people are actually paying it. I would bet you anything though, you wait about 2 years and some of those people will be selling it on eBay in mint condition, and you'll be able to pick up one of those watches for under $100 if you want one. You know, it's bioceramic or kind of plastic. But you might want it. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. Now, I just mentioned the upgraded 4R36 movement that's in this watch. You know, you might be thinking, why is that important to me? Why would I care? So there's a couple of features going on here. One, it's hacking, which means when you pull the crown out to set the time, the second hand actually stops. This allows you to set the time much more accurate. There's also a 41-hour power reserve, which is nice, because if you take the watch off and you put it down for half a day, you pick it back up, it's still telling the correct time. And thirdly, the most important feature, at least to me, was the fact that it is hand winding. Now, as I mentioned before, I get paid basically to sit at a desk 8-9 hours a day. Now imagine this. Imagine there's a desk here, right? And here's my left hand, which just has my watch on it, and it's just sitting there. And my right hand is actually moving the mouse. So this left hand isn't actually moving enough to charge this automatic watch. And I found that's really irritating, right? But with this hand winding ability, I can actually, rotate the crown and wind it 10-15 times in the morning, and that's enough to keep it going. You know how some people are like very health conscious and they're trying to get 10,000 steps in a day? I actually downloaded an app once because I was just curious about how many steps or how much movement do I get during my day, since I sit at a desk a lot. And it turned out I have like 2,000 steps equivalent. That's not great. Yeah, it's really not great. But that's what I'm trying to point out here. That, if you are somebody who works in an office and maybe you don't move as much as you wish you did, the hand winding is a really important feature. Yeah, I mean, that's actually why I ended up getting, this watch specifically with the new movement for that feature. So another plus to this watch is the Lume. The Lume is actually fantastic on this thing. Even sitting at my desk next to my window, I get enough light to activate the Lume. So if I actually walk down the hallway later, and I look down my watch, I can see it's glowing, and I think that's fantastic. That's so cool. Ironically, before COVID, I used to have to go into the office, and I sat at a windowless office, and it kind of sucked, right? I didn't see any sunlight for the 8 or 9 hours that I was actually at work. But now, because of COVID, probably like a lot of you, I'm working from home. And my office is now my spare bedroom, which has a window. So in a sense, when you think about it, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know, thanks COVID, I guess. So another plus would definitely have to be the strap. Now this is a silicone strap, and I've never had one before. Now, in all honesty, I'm not the stainless steel strap kind of guy, right? I mean, I usually take my watches off of that, and I put it on a NATO or maybe a 2-piece leather strap or something like that. So I did have some reservations about this, because I thought, well, is it going to be like rubber? Is it going to be uncomfortable on my skin? Is it going to kind of like pull on my skin a little bit? But I have to admit that it's actually a super comfortable strap. And in fact, I forget I have it on a lot. And I love the texture in it. I'll try to get a close-up of this later for you. But it kind of has this basket weave texture to it, which kind of reminds me of like the waves of water. And maybe that's one of the reasons why it just goes so well with this diver style watch. I love the bezel too. I love just the sound of it. It has a very satisfying click. It is a 120 notch bezel. So every time you turn it, you hear that little I'll see if I can get a sound to pick up on the video for you. But there's very little back play to it. It feels very steady. And actually I do this. So if you're not a diver, there's always a question of, well, what do you need the bezel for? What do you actually use it for? And I will admit, I did use it the other day when I was cooking some steaks outside. Because what you do is you rotate it so the triangle is at whatever you need it to be, say 10 minutes. So then visually, all I have to do is look at my watch and see if the minute hand is lined up with the triangle. There you go. The non-diver use for a rotating bezel. About a couple of the cons of the watch. One of the cons, absolutely without any question whatsoever, is that the chapter ring is misaligned. Now this is very common for Seikos, not specifically the SRPD, but really all of the watches, all the diver style watches. And some people say like, well, that's what you get for a $300 watch. I don't know. It is kind of irritating a little bit. Now, I've actually purchased this watch twice, right? And both times, yeah, it's off just a little bit. It's either off like a millimeter or maybe 2 millimeters. And you might be thinking, well, that's not very much, a millimeter. But you got to keep in mind proportionally what that is to the entire watch. It actually does kind of like, it is noticeable. So I should do a shout out to Mark at Long Island Watch. He actually did a video about how to fix it. And it isn't a little involved, I'm not gonna lie. You have to take the watch apart, take the movement out, take the chapter ring out, and basically you're gonna glue it back into position where it should be to start with. So I'm not there yet. I mean, like I said, mine is like a millimeter off, and it doesn't really bother me because when I first saw it, yeah, you're staring at it, it's brand new. But now that I'm actually using it every day, it doesn't seem to be that big of a deal. Maybe in 6 months, a year or something, if my OCD starts to get into me and it really bothers me, I know how to fix it. Yeah, I could take the whole thing apart and glue it back into place if need be. But for now, that's just how it is. Oh, so I saw this video on YouTube, and it's about how to spot a fake watch. And they had all these different brands coming up. And what they did is that they put up pictures side by side, and you're supposed to figure out which one was the fake and which one was the real. So they eventually got around to doing a Seiko. Yeah, I think you know where this is going. And I immediately knew which one was the fake one because I'm like, well, that one's misaligned. That's obviously the fake. And you know what? I was right. So I don't know, in a sense, you could say, well, maybe it's almost a plus because, if it's misaligned, it's not a fake. But no, I'm going to count it definitely as a con. Yeah. So another con about this watch is the exhibition case on the back. This way you can look into it and you can see the movement. But I'm going to say that this, for me anyhow, is a con. And here's why. Because one, you don't really see it very often, right? I mean, when the watch is on your wrist, you obviously don't see it. When you take it off and you put it down on your table, your nightstand, your watch box, whatever you have, you don't see it. So the only time you're ever possibly going to see this is in between taking it off your table and putting it on your wrist, if you look at it real quick. So given that, plus the fact that it's really not the most detailed of movements to start with, right? I mean, the router kind of blocks most of the view. Now, if you had a movement such as, I don't know, the 1963 Seagull, which is a beautiful movement, and granted, it's not an automatic movement, so there's no router, there's just, it's a really stunning movement. And I could see, being, I don't know, dazzled by that, right? Just kind of looking at it and watching all the parts move. But on this one, I feel like it's almost geared towards the entry-level buyer. It's almost like a gimmick. So for those reasons, I'm going to count the case back as a negative instead of a positive. So there you have it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you agree that it's kind of the diver watch for the everyday person? But the person's not really going to go diving, who just kind of wants the aesthetics of it. Maybe you have a different diver. Maybe you do have the SKX, or maybe you have the Citizen diver. This is Eric from Eric's Everyday Watches, reminding you to buy the watch that you love. Remember, this is your watch collection. Nobody else is going to be wearing this. So buy what you want. Buy what is going to make you happy. And I'll see you in the next video.